Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where or when in the world you are. We have people tuning in literally from around the globe. So on behalf of myself and the Tachyon staff, we want to welcome you to the Filecoin Launchpad Accelerator Demo Day. I'm Gabriel, I'm the Managing Director of Tachyon, and myself and the Tachyon staff will be your host for the day. All right, so before we get started, I'm going to create a little context and framing for today's event. Then I'll quickly walk you through today's schedule so you know exactly what to expect. Let's get started. All right, so for those of you unfamiliar with Tachyon, let me start by telling you a little bit about what we do. Tachyon is part of the consensus mesh, and we've collectively, at this stage, incubated and invested in more than 100 projects, including some of the key pillars of the Ethereum ecosystem. So these are companies like Infra, MetaMask, 3box, Pegasus, Truffle, Gitcoin, and so many more. But as you can see from these concentric circles on my screen, there's a lot of different ways that the consensus mesh supports the entire Web3 ecosystem, whether that be companies that have spun out, are supporting of and investing in DAOs, our alumni network, our partner investor network, our friends and partners over at Ethereal Ventures. There are just so many different ways that we try to help support the Web3 ecosystem. Regarding Tachyon now, since 2017, Tachyon, which is the accelerator part of our business that supports the most ambitious and early stage Web3 founders, we've launched 5 cohorts. We've got over 75 active alumni companies, and we've had the pleasure of working with just some phenomenal Web3 startups, as you can see on my screen here. Companies such as Nuo, or Idle, or Transact, or Outlet, or PieDAO, or Parcel, Multisafe, Mile, Secured Finance, just so many amazing entrepreneurs and founders that we help support in the early stages of their company and their business. The way that we support founders through the accelerators, twice a year, we bring together the most ambitious Web3 founders for an intense 12-week sprint to hone their value proposition, test their assumptions with real customers, and prepare for the next phase of investment and growth. We do that through a number of different levers. So first, we provide founders with seed capital so that they can work on their startup full-time. We provide them one-on-one mentorship with ourselves, as well as our vast global network of Web3 builders, entrepreneurs, investors. We put our founders through weekly programming to help their startup move rapidly through the product maze on their path to becoming a high-growth, venture-backable, if they choose, business. And then the program culminates in a day just like today, which is their demo day. In terms of the power of the Tachyon network, we continue to build long-term value for our founders because of the Tachyon network, which consists of not only previous successful alumni, but our growing roster of mentors and advisors and Web3 builders, innovators, and investors. Every check that we write into a company becomes more and more valuable because of the success of our previous alumni who come back and help our founders. They help them with fundraising, with business development opportunities, with making introductions to key partners in our ecosystem. And our mentors and advisors are some of the industry leaders in Web3 that help open the doors for our founders. We're constantly looking to leverage synergies across the entire Tachyon network to help our founders accelerate their companies. You'll hear a little bit more about that later on today. Okay, so these are some of the faces behind Tachyon and the people who have been working their faces off to support our founders. Tachyon was built by entrepreneurs for entrepreneurs. That's really important. Take myself, for example. I'm a previous 3-time founder, 2-time entrepreneur, where I went in-house as EIR, built a couple of companies. I've built a wide spectrum of different businesses. I've had the opportunity to build and scale companies up to hundreds of millions of MAUs in Web2. And I built companies that just weren't venture backable, but ended up being $10 million run rate businesses. At this stage of my career, though, I have mentored and advised more than 60, 70 Web3 founders, many of whom have gone on to successfully raise and or exit, whether that be through traditional venture capital, or in many cases, a number of our founders have used Web3 native innovative structures and funding mechanisms like DAOs or token launches. But more importantly, having been a founder multiple times, like the rest of the Tachyon team, we help early stage founders in that crucial 0 to 1 stage figure out problem solution and problem market fit. Our advice is not theoretical or something that we read in a blog somewhere or something like that. Our advice comes from having been in the trenches as founders, building companies. And we don't give founders any advice that we don't take ourselves. In fact, we're still in the trenches as builders of Tachyon. Our mission is to help transform engineers into entrepreneurs. And there are a couple of nuances when building a Web3 startup to getting problem market fit. So let's talk about that. I think most people in or around the startup world are familiar with what's known as problem market fit. Problem market fit is simply when the right team on a high value pain point focuses on a high value pain point in a growing market with a unique advantage within their solution and a specific target identified. That's product market fit. Product market fit and finding it is kind of the holy grail for startups. And so even though we're building in Web3, we don't throw on Tachyon, we don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. We teach our founders to take the best parts of Web2 startup building, the principles, the strategies, the tactics, but then layer in some of those unfair competitive advantages that are inherent in building in Web3, namely composability and community. These are key differentiating factors for building a startup in Web3 versus Web2. So let's talk about them a little bit. Composability is just thinking through how your company or how your product fits within the Lego stack, and becoming a composable piece of the stack. Most companies, especially in Web 2, are concerned with value capture a little too early, in my opinion. We help our founders think through their product and how they can become a piece of the puzzle, the Web3 puzzle. How they think about being open source and their interoperability, their portability, remaining permissionless. And so, that's the composability part. The community part in Web3 is, I think, one of the key unfair competitive advantages. Your early adopters can also end up being your early backers. They can also become your early distribution arm. And so we put a heavy emphasis in Tachyon with our founders in building in public and creating a culture in their community. Those are some of the keys to success. We believe that when it comes to building a community in Web3, founders need to focus on the community ownership, community participation, and community governance. Obviously, there's a lot more that I could talk about. And in fact, we have a full 12-week curriculum with founders where we unpack this. But this is one of the reasons that I think that Tachyon is so special and why our founders come out and end up being some of the more successful companies, at least within the Web3 startup ecosystem. And our track record speaks to that. Over 60% of our alumni end up raising a significant follow-on round within 6 months of program completion, and in many cases, a lot faster than that, which puts Tachyon in tier 1 of accelerators. Not Web3 accelerators, but all accelerator programs, including some of the more notable names out there. And we continue to build long-term value for our founders by supporting them for 3 months and beyond during their fundraise post-demo day. We really look for, to leverage the synergies across that consensus meta mesh network that I was showing you earlier, to unlock that value for our network and for our alumni. We're constantly innovating our product offerings to deliver more value to our founders and our alumni. And as we look to support even more founders in the future, you're going to hear about some of this in terms of our upcoming innovations during the closing remarks. It's key for us that we continuously innovate and create more value for the ecosystem. These are just some of our founders. Listen, no doubt about it, I am biased when I say this, but I think we have some of the best founders in the ecosystem. And I love it when they leave and become successful pillars of the Web3 ecosystem. I'm also extremely proud of the fact that Tachyon's NPS scores amongst our founders as they graduate are 80+. And that just, I think, speaks to how much we try to pour into the cohort and supporting these companies. All right, so that's enough about Tachyon. Let me tell you a little bit about the founders that you're about to meet today. Our investment thesis on Tachyon has always been that Web3 will be synonymous with the internet. We believe that Ethereum will be the final settlement layer of Web3. And so as we looked around the ecosystem, for complementary components of the Web3 stack, we found a mission-aligned partner in Protocol Labs, creators of breakthrough technologies such as Filecoin, IPFS, P2P, and so many more. So in 2020, so not this past year, but the previous year, Tachyon launched our first ever powered by partnership model with our friends at Protocol Labs. And that first cohort was just a smashing success. In fact, you're going to hear from some of our alumni and some of the founders that were in that cohort today who came out of that program, who want to share with you what they've been working on since they came out of that original partnership program. But coming off the heels of that first partnership cohort, FLA2 was launched in April with a commitment. We made a commitment at the last demo day to have a permanent remote first program that kept the level of intensity, focus, and connection amongst our founders, and that our founders have come to expect from Tachyon. These technologies are global technologies. And so it's extremely important to us and to Protocol Labs that we're able to tap into the vast global entrepreneurial ecosystem and serve even more ambitious founders of Web3, no matter where in the world you are. And because of that, we end up having the largest application pool we've ever had in Tachyon's history for this cohort. And so for the past 12 weeks, these 20 companies hailing from 11 different countries have come together in a remote first program to build the future of Web3. Okay, so in a minute, I'm going to introduce you to these companies and have them come up and tell you a little bit about what they've been building for the past 12 weeks. These are some of the most ambitious and future-forward Web3 startups in the ecosystem that are building at the intersections of gaming, DeFi, NFTs, Metaverse portability, dev tooling, and automation tools. It's been so exciting to see the convergence of these industries take place within this cohort. And I think what's truly exciting for us is having watched them build over the past 12 weeks, it's been like peering into the future. For those of you who talk to me often, you know that I say that about most of our cohorts or every cohort, but it always ends up proving to be true. And so today, these founders are emerging to share with all of you what they've been building and their vision for a more open, resilient, and trustworthy internet. So with that as the context, let me share with you a little bit about how we're going to spend our day together. In a minute, I'm going to bring up Colin Everin, head of ecosystem and operations for Protocol Labs, for a few brief remarks. And then we're going to jump right into demos from our founders. So we've got 4 waves of teams. First up will be our DeFi teams. Now, these are DeFi-focused companies that are building platforms that are enabling access to open financial systems and protocols, automation and no-code tools for users, DAO treasury management tools, and consumer invest-to-play platforms. I think these are some of the most cutting-edge DeFi companies that I've seen in the wild. And then next, we're going to have a group of next-gen NFT companies. Now, these are companies that are creating new and novel use cases for powerful N-of-one assets across the entire NFT landscape. So whether that be fractionalizing the world's most valuable NFTs to helping consumers unlock new experiences in the consumer journey with NFTs, or tool sets for the new creator economy. These companies are helping to define the next generation of NFT use cases. Then after that will be our gaming, social, and Metaverse companies. I'm really excited about this group, this wave. These are companies that are helping to build new gaming and social money platforms and Lego pieces that are leveraging the power of decentralization to create censorship-resistant experiences for not only existing gaming platforms, but also building interfaces for consumers and developers alike to connect with one another in and out of the Metaverse. Finally, will be our infra, dev tools, and automation companies. And I think we've probably saved the best for last. So you're definitely going to want to stay tuned. These are companies that are building a whole new stack and layer from the ground up. So whether they're building a whole new communications layer that's native to Web3, they're building automation to help bring the power of DeFi to DEXs that we see in CeFi, or some new and novel use cases that are unlocking the unfair competitive advantage of blockchain and decentralized ledger technology, surfing on top of token economics for new and novel businesses and use cases. So I'm very, very excited about the companies that you're going to see in that wave. And don't worry if that sounds like a lot. We've made sure to design today's event to create opportunities for checking your inbox if you need to, or having quick bio breaks. But there are also the slots we're going to have a number of alumni come and speak to you about what they've been building since leaving previous Tachyon cohorts. So you'll definitely want to stay tuned for those. Finally, you want to stick around to the very end, I promise you, because we've got a couple of closing remarks by yours truly, and we've got a couple of special teaser announcements for the broader Web3 ecosystem. So you're in for a fantastic day. So literally all you need to do now is just sit back, relax, and we're going to jump right in. So we're going to go ahead and bring up Colin Everin to give a few brief remarks and share with you all of the ways in which we're thinking about how we're going to catalyze the next 1,000 startups within this ecosystem over the next year. So I think Colin and the team are all set up and ready to go. So let's go ahead and get Colin up to the stage, please.